Hey kiddos, it's Mr. Michael here with you for another Bible class video. We are still in Measuring by God's Rule, our booklets. We're in lesson number 4 in our booklets this week, and that is called Elisha and Naaman. Now remember, we talked about the difference in Elijah and Elisha, and J comes before S, so we know Elijah came before Elisha. But then, after Elijah was carried to heaven in a whirlwind, after he and Elisha went across the Jordan River and the chariot of fire came between them, then Elisha took his place as the prophet of God. And we talked about that last week. But now we're talking about a time when Elisha met a man named Naaman. So, lesson number 4, Elisha and Naaman. But before we get into our lesson, let's take a look at our memory verse. Now, this is our last week with this memory verse. And so next week we'll have a new one. So you guys ought to have this one down by now. 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 21. Elijah went there and stood in front of the people. He said, "If the Lord is the one and only God, follow him. But if Baal is the one and only God, follow him." You guys have done such a good job with this one in class. Remember, we did the memory verse hunt, we did the eye test, we did a couple different things, and you guys have done such a good job with it, and I've been so proud of you. So keep up the good work, and remember, next week we'll have a brand new memory verse. So our story today about Elisha and Naaman is found in 2 Kings chapter 5. Remember, all these that we've been talking about are in the Old Testament. So 2 Kings chapter 5. And the story begins talking about how much the king of Aram admired Naaman. Now, that might be a new word to you, Aram. What do we mean when we say the king of Aram? Well, let's look at the map here. This is very interesting because Naaman was not an Israelite. He was not from the northern kingdom or the southern kingdom. He was from another kingdom over here, northeast of Israel, called Aram. And so the people from Aram are called Arameans. And their capital was the city of Damascus. So this was a long way away from Jerusalem or Samaria, either of the capital cities of Judah or Israel. And so Naaman was not just anyone, he was a commander in the army of the Arameans. And it talks about how the king of Aram admired Naaman because it says, through him the Lord had given Aram victories. Isn't that interesting that it says the Lord gave Aram victories through Naaman? Now these people, they were enemies of the Israelites. They had fought wars against Israel, and they had taken captives back from Israel. So it's kind of interesting to see how God can show mercy on people even if they are not Israelites. That's something that he told Moses in Exodus chapter 33. He says, "I will show mercy to whoever I want to show mercy to." And that's something that the Apostle Paul talks about in the New Testament in the book of Romans too. That's something that we can learn, that God will show mercy to whoever he wants to show mercy to. And so this is an interesting story for us about Naaman, because Naaman was a commander in the army of the country of Aram. And God had given them victories through Naaman. And Naaman's wife had a servant girl. This servant girl had grown up in Samaria. That's right, she was an Israelite. She had grown up there in Samaria, but when there was a war between Aram and Israel, she had been taken captive to go live in Damascus, in Aram, with Naaman and his wife. And so she was a servant girl in their house. Wow. It must have been hard. It must have been difficult for her to leave her family and to go to Aram and to be there and to serve these other people. But we can see how God used this young girl, and God did amazing things in the rest of this story. Because not only was Naaman a mighty warrior, not only was he a commander in the army, not only was he an Aramean, he had a disease called leprosy. Leprosy was really bad in that time because it would give them spots on their skin, and there was no cure for it. They didn't know how to make it better, and it would itch and it would scratch and sometimes even make their skin peel off in different ways, and it was just really, really bad. So one day, this servant girl who worked for Naaman's wife, she said to Naaman's wife, she says, "Oh, I wish that Naaman would go and see the prophet in Samaria. He would heal him of his leprosy." She was talking about Elisha. Remember, she had grown up in Samaria. Maybe she had heard the stories about Elisha and the widow and the endless supply of oil. Maybe she had heard the stories about the Shunammite woman and how Elisha had blessed them with a son and then raised that son from the dead. Maybe she had heard about these things, and she knew that God gave Elisha the power to do amazing miracles. So she tells Naaman's wife, "Oh, I just wish Naaman could go back and visit Elisha in Samaria." But the problem was, remember, they were enemies. The Arameans were enemies of the Israelites. And so he went to ask the king of Aram if it was okay if he went. And you know what? Not only did the king give him permission to go to Samaria, the king gave him gifts to take with him. He took 750 pounds of silver and 150 pounds of gold and 10 sets of clothing. Wow, that's a lot. And he took these as gifts. And he had an officer who traveled with him. So there was Naaman and his officer, and they probably had some donkeys to help them carry all these things, because that was heavy. 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, 10 changes of clothes. So they took all these things and they went to the capital city of Samaria. When they got to Samaria, they went straight to the Israelite king, and the king was Jehoram at this time, and they gave him a letter that the king of Aram had written, saying, this is my commander Naaman. He's a really good guy, and you really ought to help him." But when King Jehoram read this letter, he said, "Am I like God, that I can give life and take it away? Why is this man asking me to heal someone with leprosy?" And then King Jehoram said, "I can see that you're really just trying to pick a fight with me." Oh no. But Elisha, the true, real prophet of God, had heard that Naaman came to Samaria. And so he sent a letter to King Jehoram. And his letter said, "Why are you so upset? Send Naaman to me, and he will learn that there is a true prophet here in Israel." And so Naaman leaves the castle, headed for Elisha's house. Can you imagine what he was thinking as he was on the way walking to Elisha's house? He might have been thinking, "I wonder what he looks like. I mean, if this is a prophet of God, wow. I wonder what he's going to do. I wonder how he's going to heal me. Is he going to come and just wave his hand like magic, and then it'll just go away and it'll be a big, amazing miracle and everyone will see?" Oh, he was so excited. He didn't know what Elisha would look like. He didn't know how he would do it, but he was excited that he would get to see an amazing miracle and that he would be healed of his leprosy. But when he got to Elisha's house, he waited for a little while, and Elisha didn't come out. Instead, Elisha sent out one of his messengers. He sent a messenger to talk to Naaman, and the messenger told him, "Go dip in the river Jordan 7 times, and you will be healed from your leprosy. Well, Naaman thought to himself, is Elisha not going to come out here and talk to me himself? I thought at least he would come out, and then I thought he would do a big amazing miracle and I would be healed. And why the Jordan River? The Jordan River is muddy. We've got better rivers than this back home in Damascus. I'll just go and wash in one of those. But do you remember it said that Naaman took an officer with him, someone who helped him carry his things and take care of things. The officer said, now, let's wait a minute, Naaman. If the prophet had told you to do something like really difficult, like, I don't know, maybe if he said, you can't be healed unless you could lift 500 pounds, then the officer said, Naaman, don't you think you would have tried to do something difficult like that? You would have at least given it a try to see if you could pick it up. And Naaman said, well, yeah, I would have tried if it was something, strong or difficult like that. I'd have tried it. He said, well, why not give this a try? Why not trust him and just do what he says? And so Naaman finally decided to trust God by trusting what Elisha's messenger had told him. And he went down to the Jordan River and he dipped in it 7 times. And guess what? When he came up that 7th time, all of his sores were gone. His skin felt so much better. Oh, he was so thankful. And he came back and said to Elisha and found him and said, now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. Wow. He realized that God is the one and only, the true God. Just like our memory verse says, what the people learned back when Elijah went up on Mount Carmel with the prophets of Baal. So that's a lesson that we see a lot as we are going through the book of 1st and 2nd Kings, that people learn that God is the one true God. He's the only one with the power to do these amazing things. And so, that is our story for today. Let's go look and see if we have a word on the word wall. Oh, yep, there it is. Our word today is trust. What does trust mean? Trust means knowing that you can believe what someone tells you. To trust a person means that you know that you can count on them. And remember, in our story, at first Naaman didn't know whether he could trust Elisha or not. But he found out by the end he could definitely trust Elisha and he could trust God. And a good verse from the Bible to tell us about this is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. That verse says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Naaman was kind of tempted to lean on his own understanding, wasn't he? He thought, well, I thought he was going to do a big miracle. Why the Jordan River? We've got cleaner rivers. He was trying to think about how he wanted to do it, or what would be better in his mind. He didn't trust God. But he learned that he can trust God and not lean on his own understanding. So what does that mean for us today? How can we learn from this? Well, as I'm recording this video, it's right after Christmas. We don't have our Christmas decorations up back here anymore. But you guys, especially if you have younger brothers or sisters, maybe you have a brother or sister who's just learning how to walk or still kind of a baby, and your mommy and daddy have to give them instructions and tell them, don't grab the ornaments off the tree. Now you guys are bigger and you're older and you're wiser and you understand why you don't need to play with the ornaments on the Christmas tree, because you could break them or you could hurt yourself. That would be bad. But your little brother or sister who barely knows how to walk, they might not understand why mommy and daddy are giving them that instruction. And so they might still go and grab an ornament off the tree, and then they drop it and they break it. And that would be bad. All because they didn't understand why they were given that instruction. Well, but you guys are bigger, older, wiser, and you understand. But you know what? Sometimes your mommies and daddies give you guys instructions that you still don't understand. But your mommies and daddies are bigger and older and wiser, and they have a reason for the instructions they're giving you. But you know what? Even sometimes God gives us instructions that even as grown-ups, we don't understand why he says to do something this way or why to do it like that. Just like Naaman didn't understand why the Jordan River, why 7 times. Sometimes we don't understand why God gives us certain instructions. But in those times, it's important that we trust God. We know that all the other things that he has told us, he has been trustworthy. And so, even if we don't understand why he gives us an instruction, we need to trust. And you guys can trust your parents that they're giving you instructions for a reason. All right, thank you guys so much for being here with us during Bible class. I hope you are having a great day and a happy new year, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.